Well, hey, in this video I thought I'd go through, try to make sense of Weir's parts in the great song Let It Grow. Of all the Dead songs that I've done, this is the one that I found the hardest to figure out the chords in certain parts. So I've tried to make use of every resource I could. When I got stuck, I went looking online to see what people had come up with. And I have to say, I've never seen such variety and disagreement amongst the tabs. It's unbelievable how different people hear it. So here's my take. Resembles some of the stuff that's out there. In some places, it's got stuff that other people don't do. And at times when I was really stuck, I was looking at videos. I don't know if that counts as cheating or not. But basically any resource I could come up with to try to make sense of this song. Now usually I like to try to get some theory in there to try to make sense of the transitions and the chord work and the voicings, but the song has so many parts that even just going through the different parts will take a long time. So I'll try to be thin on the theory and then just try to be accurate on the progressions. So let's dive in and see what we get. So I'm just going to run through the different chords we're going to use in order and show you the different voicings that we're going to use. We're going to do an A minor 7th up at the 5th and the 7th fret. So we're going to have A, C, G, and open E. In the 70s version, that forms the introduction. In the 80s and 90s, we get oscillation between that A minor 7th and what is a B diminished with an E that gets muted and then played. So the B diminished is going to be B, D, and F. Just going to put our ring finger on there just because it's easier to fret it that way. Moving on and off between the E. So then the verse is going to start with A minor 7th, 2. That B diminished with the E, on and off. Back to the A minor 7th, to the B diminished. Then A minor, briefly up to a B minor. C, so C the sun, sparkle the moon, silver bees, B minor D. And then another way we're going to play the D is the kind of inversion that he likes to play. B with the F sharp caught here. Comes from the town with a color, the wood colors. A7. She's brown as the bank. She rolls down to gather the water. Back to that D. She carries it away with the love, the river heads. B minor. The river has B minor, A minor, let it flow, up to the B minor again, briefly. Do a little move from a D, pull off your second finger so that you get partial F sharp, C sus2, up to a E sus2. If you want to go that way. And where it's key is getting that F sharp in there. That's the 2. So that's the verse. And then we're going to repeat it again for the second verse that begins with round and round, cut of the ploughed and the furrowed fields. So if we were going to run through it, it would basically look like this. after we go through that for the second verse, then we're going to get to the chorus. Now that's probably the hardest part to figure out what he's doing, and it's the hardest to hear him. But here's my take on the chorus. All right, now what I hear for the chorus is, we ended the verse with wide and clear up to that E sus2. And I think we're just going to stay on that. E sus2, what shall we? And then G. Shall we do it as an E5? So it's really the same fretting as the E sus2, but we're just going to emphasize the low notes. So, what shall we say? Shall we call it by name? C, G, dancing on a pin, E minor 7th. Lord, glad with the sky from which it came. D, name is on the earth, takes A up to the 9th, and then E minor, we will not choose, speaking sadly, E5, and listen to the thunder shout. We're going to get this quick succession of listen to thunder shout. So C, G, D, E minor. Again, that little move to the C sus2, and then slide it up to the E sus2. So there's the chorus. Now once we've done the chorus, we're going to go back to the verse, do a full verse, and that's going to be our first lead break. So we're just going to go run through the verse again, starting on the A minor 7th, to the B diminished, etc., going all the way through till we get to E sus2 again. Okay. Now we're going to get to the third verse, and the third verse is going to be a partial verse. All right, so let's do that next. Now the third verse is going to be, again, start with the A minor 7th. So it goes, we make what we made since the world began. Nothing more, love of women, work of men. Seasons round. There's rise and fall. And then we're going to go into the long jam. In the 80s and 90s version, the jam has 3 parts. I'll go through the 3 parts. In the 70s version, the jam only has 2 parts. The third part gets left out. So we're going to go now into the jam. After we come out of the jam, we're going to do what people call the step down. And after the step down, we're going to go back to the chorus. And then we're going to go back to that third part of the jam, the one that it gets used in the 80s and 90s version. In the 70s version, after the chorus, we go back to the second part of the jam. And then we go back to that step down. All right, so let's break down the long instrumental section. We'll call the jam with its 3 parts, since we're focusing on the 80s and 90s version. So just as a warm-up for the jam, these 3 different parts, the first part is going to be, remember, we had ended with up and down as we rise and fall. So up and down as we rise and fall to the D. Now the first part of the jam, as I hear it, it's going to be F, E minor, D. Hang on the D. F, E minor, D. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. So that's going to be the first part of the jam. And the second part of the jam is we're going to go back to our A minor 7th to our B diminished, on and off with the E. A slightly different rhythm than what we had in our introduction. Now, as I said, in the 70s version, that's all you get, those two parts. In the 80s and 90s, you get this extra part, which, as I hear it, is going to be, it's going to use the chords E minor, F sharp minor, and G. And it's going to essentially be in this order. It's going to be E minor, E minor, F sharp minor, G, E minor, F sharp minor, G, F sharp minor, E minor, F sharp minor, G, E minor. So. Sometimes Bobby will slide all the way up for the F sharp, all the way up to the 14th fret. Essentially just use the lower 3 strings, or if you want, get that partial in there. So that's going to be the structure of the jam. And I'll talk a little bit now about some of the stuff that goes on, because it's really quite a protracted jam with Jerry doing lots of soloing. It can often go on for quite a while. Now, as far as that long 3-part jam goes, as I said, the first part begins with that transition from the 3rd verse, the B minor to the D, F, E minor, D. And sometimes it really hangs on the D for quite a long time. So here's one of the places where Bobby will resort to some of the stuff that he's kind of known for. He'll slide up from the C up to the D. And sometimes, for variety, he will go to a D7. Personally, I don't hear it that often. I know some people play it with the D7 regularly, but I hear that just coming in occasionally. But I guess with so many versions out there, it can vary. Watch the videos, and often Bobby will kind of look around and signal that he's ready to make the transition from that F, E minor, D to the second part of the jam, where he goes to the A minor 7. he's picking up the pace there, and he's not hanging on the A minor 7th nearly as long as he does in the introduction. And then again, you'll kind of look for him to make a signal. Sometimes it'll be Phil that actually will come in with the transition to the third part, to the E minor. Now for what's called the step down, we're going to do 4th and 2nd. So one way to do it is just kind of finger pick these, the 2nd and the 4th strings, up at the 2 at the 12th, 11th and 10th, 7th, 9, 5 and 7th, and then sometimes he'll kind of slide it out, and then back. And then picking, which really is C sus2, as we were doing before. Instead of just picking those two, you can play all three. C sus2, and then we're going to slide it back all the way up to our E sus2, where we're going to go back to our chorus. What shall we say? Shall we call it by name? Did I count the angels? Dance on the morning bright is the sky for which it came. Done that verse again, sorry, the chorus again, and then in the 80s and 90s versions we go back to our E minor, F sharp minor, G jam. And that goes on for some time as Jerry's really going quite intensely with the jamming, his soloing. And then we're going to go back to that step down again. Do that 3 times, and then get our C sus2 that ends it, and then the way that the song ends, we can slide it all the way back up to the E sus2. Another way occasionally Bobby will end it will essentially be playing the E sus2, but in the open position. So the E sus2 has got the 1, the 2, and the 5. So E, F sharp, and B. And you could do that in the open position. Here's our E, B, and our F sharp. Then you can just kind of mute the G, and then you got your B and the E again. And as it fades out, then we're used to hearing at this point. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.